Okay, we got most everyone here that's coming. And who we got on Zoom?
So we have Brad and Rob DeClue on here.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can
Yep.
hear you now.
Okay, I was having troubles getting it unmuted, but we're all set now.
So we have 7 of us in attendance.
Yeah, John's right there. You're good.
Okay, so,
Yeah, Steve had to leave.
okay, we will get started and what's your pleasure with the minutes of the previous meeting? John moved to accept the minutes. Is there a second? Second. Stan seconded. Any comments? All those in favor of the minutes as presented, say aye.
I
Opposed? Passed. That's the easy part of the meeting. Now we will get down to the busy part. Ag and Farmland Protection Plan. And we'll just start going through it page by page. The introduction looks good, doesn't it? Any comments?
Ken, make sure you're using your mic so that we can hear on here.
How's that?
Good.
Okay. Nothing of substance. There's just a couple of things. One where, okay, I'll say, so under introduction, second paragraph down. And I didn't highlight it. So it talks about the impact of, okay, this is the third sentence down. This causes allied agribusiness to become more evident, which transforms operations to become less economical and viable, impacting all county restaurants. So I'm just thinking there was like a spell check thing there. So the allied agribusinesses, like, equipment shops, they're not more evident, right? They're less evident or less common or less abundant. Just is, I don't know. You understand my point, right? Yeah, it's just they're not more evident. So that was.
I haven't found where you're at.
Okay.
Where are you again, Ken?
So on the page that says background and introduction, second paragraph, third sentence, it starts, this causes allied agribusiness to become more evident. So one of the big challenges is that all these agribusinesses like feed stores and fertilizers and equipment places are just less abundant. And that makes it harder for farmers to get parts and feed and fertilizer. And when they do get them, they might be more expensive. So I just thought that was not reading probably the way it was originally intended.
I think what I'm seeing is I go to Tractor Supply and I go to, up here to Woods Corners. They have less actual farm stuff and more hobby farm stuff. I can't find the parts in Tractor Supply I used to find it, for repairs and so forth.
Yeah, I think that so that just like really that's just a wordsmithing thing where you could take more and change it to less, or you could reword that. So that was fun.
Let's go back to the sentence just before it.
Yeah.
And commitment by farmer create or creates, but the E on the end doesn't look right. The diminished long-term commitment by farmer create.
Should be
effects.
creates.
Should be a S,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It creates. just a spelling thing, but
Yeah,
Wait a second, where are you now?
I'm in the same paragraph.
first sentence,
I know,
First
first
sentence,
sentence, second
Yes,
it's
paragraph
got an E instead of an S.
on create.
but farmers,
create, or a farm creates. So it's, if you're gonna keep the S on farmers, it's grammatically correct.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it had an E instead of an S. That's what I was correcting.
It doesn't need an
This
S.
is tough stuff, because it's like, well, is create modifying farmers or commitment? Because the long-term diminished commitment by farmers creates, so we could wordsmith to that.
Right. It's actually referencing the commitment. So which would be creates.
Yeah. So anyway, well, this is fun. It's just
Okay.
like 10th grade.
English class.
Yeah,
And we don't have an English teacher in our midst.
I know, but
Mrs.
man, we're
Seacrest
covered
isn't
for
here.
math.
Okay, so what do you want to do with the?
We can just, what do we do? Just throw these things out, Shane, you think, and then you guys can just.
Yeah, just basically what we wanted you to do is review this beforehand and then bring up any major concerns here. I mean, if you see little things like that, yeah, bring them up and we can wordsmith them back at the office. But mainly we're trying to get a hold of the main focus points.
Let's go to Ken's thing and almost say agribusiness becomes less evident rather than more.
Just switch it.
Because it's harder when we'll change that word to less.
Yeah, and you guys can wordsmith that.
Yeah, yeah.
The other thing, just kind of to keep it up to date, we've had a kind of a crash in the hemp market. So maybe we just, instead of saying industrial hemp, we'll just say alternative crops or something like that, and that covers hemp if it comes back, and hops and barley and a few things. Just that's in the last sentence in the paragraph. We're talking about renting ground. And then, maybe we would say like for hunting or recreation, but anyway, that's just a thought. But then when you get to the next sound, you talk about hemp, you could leave it in like that, but it's not just hemp, it's other crops. And right now hemp is kind of, like that not as great as it looked back in 2 years ago.
Okay, yeah. So what, go with cultivation of alternative crops. And that leaves everything in. Okay, next page, anything? I didn't have anything. The next page, with a summary of the 2012 plan, any comments?
Which page are we on? Which page are we on now, Terry?
I'm on the page with 2012 agricultural farmland protection.
Oh,
plan
okay, got it.
summary.
Yep, I see. Yep.
I'll move it right along. And the next page after that, my comment was on number 4, Chenango County Planning Board pursues efforts to establish comprehensive planning that supports and protects farmland in all municipalities of the county. And message I put beside it is, how are we doing this? Are we doing it?
Yeah, so we routinely update the county comprehensive plan and reference all the other plans within as part of basically pulling them all together. So obviously with our county comprehensive plan, we do mention agriculture, but we mainly want the county comprehensive plan to reference this plan so that the comprehensive plan isn't some 500-page document that just regurgitates what's already in here. It's reference this for our plan on agriculture or reference this on our economic development.
Okay, well, I just wanted to highlight, ask how we are doing it. Any other comments? Next page, 2020 survey conclusions. Next page with the 2021 cow analysis results. Vision statement.
So one thing about the vision statement or the position statement is, do we want to what's the word? Reaffirm our position statement for this plan as well? We did last time for the last plan, just to basically re-say that we, as of 2021, we still agree with this position. Right. Yeah. We just wanted to have like someone like make a motion to basically reaffirm that if we want to do so.
You're talking about all these bullets on the following page, Shane?
Yes. So when we wrote the last plan, we reaffirmed that those are still valid. So our thought was, do we want to do that again for this plan, is again, reaffirm that those are still what our position is and what we want to do.
Almost.
Okay, Marge moved to reaffirm our position statement. Second.
Second, Brad.
Ed seconded it. Any further comments?
I got that.
Do we want to add anything? I think the only thing that's really new, and I've been pretty hectic lately, so I got to scan parts of this plan, but not all of it. And so I guess I can just ask Shane and the rest of us, like right now, what seems like might be one of the two big economic opportunities that maybe weren't on the radar a couple of years ago. One is solar farms, and we've seen them develop around the county, and I don't know if solar and wind in here. I know they have been in the past. I just don't remember where we are right now with that.
Yeah, so in one of the later section of this plan, it does include solar, wind, and renewable development.
Okay.
Well, when you do the solar, you're taking ag land out of production.
Not necessarily. You've got a lot of upland fields that could do solar that
Aren't as economical.
no, right. And so I'm just thinking, so anyway, we have some fields. I don't know, just like in maybe there's less of them in Guilford than there is in Varsalia, but you have fields that are high elevation, wet and acidic, and they probably are better with solar panels on them than putting out one crop of hay every August. But
Well, I think in some cases, we have it very generally listed in here that says some of the most productive and profitable farmlands are in intense adverse competition with other land uses such as residential and commercial development.
well, I think that's an important point. If you're going to put up a solar farm is a lot better on a hillside of wet soil than it is on prime ag land next to on a gravelly loam. And so that's one thing we'd like to focus on. But anyway, sounds like we've got it here.
This is Brad. I would concur. We need to clarify that. It seems solars are always on more productive land, and we need to discourage that.
Is it going to be addressed further on in the plan?
Yeah, there are significant sections of this plan that talk about solar and wind and all the other renewable where we discourage that on productive lands.
Okay.
We'll move on to the next page.
I don't think we ever voted on that.
Oh, okay. Hope we didn't. Oh, any further discussion on the motion to reaffirm our statement? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Are we putting a date in here? And that date is,
Today,
oh, okay.
that date would be today. Terry.
Put your arm like that.
We'll move on to part 2, and the only comment I made on that page was at the last sentence. It says topography varies from rolling to steep, wide ridge tops and nearly flat topped hills. I haven't found the flat topped hills yet. That was the only comment I had. Seems like I go up one side and I fall off the other side.
I'm not,
There's a beautiful flat top field on the top of Ridge Road in the town of Otselic. How many acres, family? Nice piece up at the top there. Huh? Well, more than that, I think. but-
It all seems to roll off.
Flat.
So, okay, well, that was just a joke I wanted to
There's
make.
no topsoil in German, but it's flat.
Yeah. Okay. Other comments? Next page. Or Brad, you have, Rob? Next page is land to be protected. That read okay. Next page. Then I moved on to the next page where the bullet was farming in Chenango County. And on that one, you go above it to number 4. Encourages the utilization and expansion of local farmer markets. And my question is, how can we encourage the city to be more helpful here in the city of Norwich? You know, we've heard the issues from Sandy. I don't know if there's more that could be done or.
This is Supervisor. I'll just chime in. There has been attempts in previous years to do more. You know, at one point in time, bid was involved. I chaired ag at the commit at the time. I was very involved with that. Those efforts, I don't think over time yielded much change. But once again, it's something we can take a look at. I know we have the other farmers markets. You know, we've taken a look at Hamilton and how other ones operate.
Yeah, well, it's a concern that how can we encourage a local market that close? Be more user friendly, farmer friendly. Maybe that's more farmer friendly.
I think some of the efforts included the availability to use staff benefits and so forth. There were some other things to try to do some entertainment or use of the local products that could be highlighted throughout the farmers market and so forth. I know Cornell Cooperative Extension was involved with that. I think once again, it may require another attempt in the future to try to do that, and maybe some entity will come up with some new ideas.
Good ideas. Okay. That was just a comment that I'd made on that page.
Maybe you could add farm stands and farm stands to that.
Okay. Oh, Ken, Mike.
Okay, well, anyway, I agree with Brad. I think farm stands might be a more viable model for Chenango County. And that's probably enough.
Jerry. This is John. In the previous page, second paragraph down, Chenango County also wishes to protect agricultural lands located along the main transportation corridors of 7, 8, 12, Interstate 88, and the Delaware and Hudson Railroad. Actually, that is not the Delaware and Hudson Railroad anymore. It's,
It's the New York South and Western.
Near South and Western. But because of the fluctuating ownership of railroads, maybe if we just generalized railroad or something.
Yeah, we can put the railroad right of ways because then it would include the one in Afton and Norwich,
Yes.
both lines.
Rather than be specific.
Okay. Any other comments or?
I had one on number 5 on the same page, develop a mechanism to monitor rural development. It's difficult to do, but if towns had land use planning and management in place, this would be pretty easy. Jerry, you and I chatted about that yesterday. But I don't. Is that a Guilford chuckle?
I gotta say, yes, it is a bit of a Guilford chuckle. You know, we've explored that, and we've always found a lot of resistance to it. I know Bob Davis, our planning board chair, and I had proposed some ideas for that. At the time, that was probably about 10 years ago. They definitely were shot down at the town board level. I tend to agree. You know, if we take a look at some land use regulations, it may be beneficial. And it would be a way of tracking things across the county to see what's going on. And I don't know whether Shane would want to have more things come back to the 239 committee or not.
I'm just gonna say good luck.
Yeah. But there's been always a lot of local opposition to that.
Yeah. We had a lot of opposition to. But the advantage is when, for instance, the wind power, which we haven't seen in Oxford, the alternative energy that may come to the ag land. In Oxford, it's a non-ag use. And so they have to get a permit and go to the zoning board of appeals and ask if we can put this ag farmland into non-ag production. So the local community has some say about land use in the future. Also,
I know Guilford, it was probably 10 years ago when we instituted subdivision. That was a step forward for Guilford, just to get subdivision regulations.
I think another piece of this, I'd have to go back and check the state regulations on this, but the state has stepped in regarding permitting processes for wind and solar development and kind of pulled that out of the hands of local governments. And I'd have to look at the specifics of it, but that's another piece of what's happened.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? Next page. Any comments there? Going over to the next page, cost of the community. And I've got down at the bottom. I don't know if I read this last sentence right, because I made a comment underneath it. This means the more farmland a community has, the lower the cost of public services. And I was trying to rationalize in my mind, I was thinking the more residential land they have, the higher the cost. So if we can keep it in ag, undeveloped, then it should be a significantly lower cost for public service and so forth. I think last night when I read it, I was just inverting it. Bottom on cost of the community. No, you're on the wrong page, the next page over. Yeah, there we go. So. Yeah, the more land we can keep in ag, the lower the cost for public service. Any other comments, questions? We will go on to the next page with environment, current conditions and trends. Any questions? Then we'll go on to the next page, crop farming. And I don't know how we could do this, but my comment here is I was looking at corn, but then I had to flip the page for the other crops. And I wished, rather than having it on 2 pages, it could all be on the same page.
Some of that's gonna be formatting anyway, because there's some other spacing issues in here that we'll have to fix either way, and probably gonna be adding some pictures, and that'll push some stuff down, and so.
Okay, yeah, if we could keep that in the same page. I actually flipped the page over and then wrote the numbers above the other because I wanted to compare numbers. And then I got, looking at the next page, soybeans, the crop in 2000, or the report from 2002 and 2012 were the same numbers. 2007 and 2017 were the same numbers. I would have thought they would have been different. 2002 was 13,372. 2012 was 13,372. So whether something, numbers didn't get picked up. I was trying to figure out why was there such a difference between, okay, some years up and down. So now you take your hay. That was 146,000 to 134 to 106, and then back up to 112.
We'll recheck the numbers, but it could be also because of rotational grazing, I wonder, or rotational crops, where if you're on a certain rotation of all the farms in Chenango County, or, just happen to be on hay that year or whatever, it could be a fluctuation on that too. Or weather conditions, yeah.
Sometimes the census, now this is from the ag census, or is this from the survey?
Ag census.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll see, but it's usually something that's a big round number. It'll be like 13,700 cattle will be 2 or 3 years in a row. And it changed a little bit. So it wouldn't surprise me just looking at those numbers that they, they're farmer estimates, so it might be the farmer estimated, the farmers are just estimating their crop, or reporting their crop the same. But anyway, yeah, I think variation is gonna, especially in hay, I think probably more than almost any other crop, goes up and down by how dry it is.
Yeah, okay.
You know that better than I do.
Yep.
So.
Any other comments?
The one thing, I just going back a couple of pages, Shane, I just, not to slow us down, but one of the things I'm talking to farmers about, and one of the things we're seeing in the environment is the idea that farmers will be reporting, like showing how much carbon they're sequestering by how they're farming, how much, and so they might be, we're paying farmers to sequester carbon by increasing soil organic matter. So that just might be something. I just had a conversation with a farmer about that this morning. So that environmental piece, farmers might be looked upon more to help mitigate this global warming by
Climate change.
Yeah, by sticking carbon into the soil or by planting trees. So that's something that might have a home there.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Last page, forest products, Amish.
Did we want to put, you've got maple in here somewhere, presumably Shane or not, or?
Yeah,
Maple.
that's in part 3, the diversification and emerging markets.
Okay, is everybody happy with what we have so far? Anything you wish to change before we send it to final markup? Next time we can look at part 3 then. Good. Okay, back to the agenda. Ken, Ag and Development Council and Sound Farm Letter.
So I don't know if Brad's there, he might, be a better person to, talk about the reason for, the need for this letter. Brad, are you available to comment on the, clean waters and air of New York State, constitutional legislation you were worried about? Or Farm Bureau was worried about?
Well, the concern is that they want to put it into a constitutional amendment, which would in turn make every situation would have to be addressed in the courts versus where it currently is, the regulations are already in law and would not necessarily be challenged in the court. In other words, may be viewed by ag farmland protection, etc. In other words, we already have laws that address all the issues, and by changing and going with the proposal, it would make every single situation would have to be addressed in a courtroom, which would be very costly to the producer.
So this is a proposal from, I don't know, it's someplace in the New York State legislature, Brad, that is raised, can't come to the concern of Farm Bureau. Am I getting that right?
Well, concern of also our Assemblyman Joe Angelino.
Joe Angelino, right. So
He's
Joe,
he's one of the few that have opposed the regulation, and he's looking for support to back up his opposition to the proposal.
so what the Ag Development Council wanted to write, they didn't want to be against. So it's better, it just was more, felt more comfortable for the group to get consensus to be for something. It was better to be for clean water and for clean air and for farmers, rather than to say, we are writing a letter to oppose the clean water and clean air regulations. And so we wrote it, drafted it like this. Right now, if there's a dispute between a farmer and a neighbor about the most common one being spreading manure, you know, and it's a pretty serious business with lots of threats of lawsuits and things of that nature. You know, basically it's adjudicated by Ag Statute 308, which says that the Commissioner of Agriculture will determine if it's a sound agricultural practice, and if it is, then it can go forward. And if there's a legal dispute and it does not come out in favor of the cranky neighbor has to pay the legal fees. So anyway, those are strong protections for farmers, and so we wrote this letter to just state that. You know, you can read what it says. So the reason we brought it to this group was basically to determine whether or not it made sense to bring it to the Board of Supervisors via the Ag Buildings and Grounds Committee. Since we got a lot of supervisors sitting on this committee, is this something that would make sense to bring to the Board of Supervisors? Do they want to support this? Does this committee want to sign on and support? Brad, am I getting that part right?
Yes.
Yeah, so this committee could initially provide support, and we could also take it up in Ag Buildings and Grounds to see if it was something that was interest of the board itself. So seems like half the people here are board
I
members,
think
so.
what we ought to do is have a motion to support this and move it on to Ag Buildings and Grounds and let them have it to present to the board.
I would make that motion that we do that.
Okay, Brad moved and John has seconded it. Further discussion?
Yes, this is, John. I think you've got a good point here, Ken, in that many times a farmer might not have the wherewithal, the financial means to enter into that lawsuit. And so he just concedes that argument and says, well, I don't want to go to court. I can't afford to do that. So I'm going to just concede it. So, yeah, this does offer some protection against that. If he feels he's right, and then he probably.
So that protection is there now. The concern is that it would go away. Yeah, so, okay, so we'll just, okay, I'll finish up the motion and
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor of forward this on to Ag Buildings and Grounds with our support, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
What's the,
Terry?
yes,
Oh, thank you, Shane. What is our legislative thing here from Senate and Assembly?
So this is something that Steve Harris wanted us to talk about today, and in the New York State bill, the budget bill, it creates a farmland protection working group. And what that basically is doing is it's creating a group of individuals from obviously the Commissioner of Ag and Markets, the Department of the DEC, Executive Director of the Office, Commissioner of Public Service. And it also includes some local government officials and those representing county agriculture and farmland protection boards. So what this would do is basically it's getting input from municipal ag and farm officials to really look at siting of solar, wind, all those things when the siting boards, but it's just basically creating this group to advocate on behalf of agriculture at the state level when they're citing these things.
It's something that we would support then.
Yep. But it's already there. It's just a matter of, I don't know how they're going to choose those members. I don't know if we advocate for certain people, if we want NISAC, I don't know how that's going to work, but Steve wanted this brought up just so you all were aware of it and you have a copy so you can read through it and understand it.
So is this a proposal for a new committee or an existing one?
This would be brand new. It's called the Farmland Protection Working Group. And it's
Okay.
Senate Bill 2505C and State Assembly 3005C. This was part of the budget bill.
Okay.
I think maybe we ought to study it over and bring some thoughts back to our next meeting on recommendations. So I think we ought to think about it.
I think that's a good idea. Research it a little.
And then put it on the agenda for the next meeting. Okay, thank you.
By then, they may have already chosen, or for all I know, when that got passed, they already know who they're picking, but either
That
way.
would be- If it's the governor's got anything to do with it, it's going to be his hand chosen yes people. So, okay, any further questions? Anything else to come before us, or we'll move on to privilege of the floor. Ken, do you have anything you want to say before you leave?
no, have a good day, we're checking out.
Okay, thank you. Yep, Shane, Colleen, I want to thank you for the work you've done with this protection plan. It's coming together nicely. Thank you. John,
Yes. NRCS, beef farmers can now do a CNP plan update with NRCS, and they don't have to go through Cornell. They can do it right at NRCS. One of the other things, Brian Sheridan reopening the building at 99 Broad Street on a limited condition. You have to call and make an appointment, and then you will be allowed into that conference room where you can conduct whatever business you need to do there.
Oh, good.
So, yes, it is, yeah. Farm storage equipment can apply to, it's a refinancing loan plan at 0.75% interest rate, and it was done through commercial credit fund. And now you can include farm storage equipment. So anything that is designated as storage equipment, you can create a loan through that. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Marge?
We're still working on and planning on a Dairy Day celebration in June. Let's hope that numbers continue to get better and things get opened up before then.
Thank you. Stan?
Yes, about the only thing I have is this county fairs planning is still going on. Hope everything can go. Don't know yet, but
Let's hope so, because that's a mainstay of summer activity.
you know, we're limited on what, some things we can do, but we try to do as many as we can, so.
Okay, thank you. George?
I'm just wondering, you know, with the legalization of cannabis this last year, I think production in our county has fallen off, whether or not that will have an impact as we move forward, whether it's going to bring those people back into the market. It's just something we may want to be watching.
This is John. I have a question on that, George. Maybe you can clarify it. The state legalized cannabis, but the control of that in the particular town is going to be done and controlled by the town board.
That's correct. These Association of Towns is supposed to be putting out some documents on that. I had an update yesterday, but it was just a little blurb saying that they will be sending us more information. Part of that has to do with opting in or opting out. If you opt out, any revenue that's generated, you would not qualify for, nor would the county. But the Association of Towns will have some information out. I don't have the details on it. I would expect within the next month.
There was a NICEAC meeting before this that I was on for planning directors, and there's actually a guidance document from NICEAC that includes all that information. So
Okay, thanks.
assuming you'll get that soon.
Okay, thank you. George has a copy of the Ag and Farmland Protection Plan from Delaware County. I attended a zoning meeting last week, in which the town of Sydney has proposed 111 pages of zoning changes. And one of the speakers was Marianne Crowley from Cooperative Extension, and she is chair of the Ag and Farmland Protection Board in Delaware County. And she handed each one of the board members a packet, which I was able to get one, and it has their Ag and Farmland Protection Plan and some other things to promote agriculture in Delaware County. And they assured us that agriculture was exempt from zoning. But my question was, what happens down the road when there's new people enforcing things? You know, we can say all we want right now, but it will change down the road possibly. So that's not all. Crops are, it's nice weather, so we can work now. I'll pass it on to Ken.
So just on the topic of marijuana and hemp, so some of the people who were growing hemp said explicitly that they were doing it with the anticipation that marijuana would become legal, and they wanted to know how to do it. So I don't know. According to Cooperative Extension, I am not allowed, probably not even allowed to say what I just said. I'm not allowed to talk about the topic of marijuana. So, and I have had already people wanting to relocate to, buy second property in the region to grow marijuana. And I just say, I can't talk to you about marijuana, but I can talk to you about growing in general. Well, I didn't say that, I said vegetables, but, just the other, well, not to go into great detail, but one of the things that has been learned about hemp over the past few years, that it's a very demanding crop, it's not unlike corn and tomatoes and things like that. And so when people start to talk to me, I just say, well, here's what you would need to do for corn and tomatoes. But anyway, the other thing, just we're trying to, on the COVID side, be as helpful as we can. We did work with a number of other agencies to help get the county clinic for ag workers stocked. And that was, I think, very successful because the big farms along the eastern corridor were handled by one agency, and they got a lot of people in those big farms. And then we reached out through our Facebook page and through word of mouth to smaller farms around the county. We got, I think 65 people ended up attending, so that was really good. We also got, I think I told Mark, connected with the gladding factory over in South Selick to get them the opportunity to get immunized. And then just we for county fair, what we have said was that we will go ahead and we will have if it's not a fair, it'll be an animal show, youth program. And we did it last year, to Janet's credit, and Craig, her replacement, is going to, there's this full steam ahead. And so if the fair can go ahead, which I think that they will be, frankly, and hope that they will be able to, we'll be there. And if they're not, well, then we'll do as much as we can from our end and support Dairy Day as much as we can. And our end of the building has been open for a while, different programs. And Marge has been in there for a couple Dairy Day meetings. So we're trying to stay at the leading edge, opening things back up. So that's it.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Brad, what would you like to report this time?
Just quickly, I'll mention they're doing additional efforts to inoculate farm workers. There's more coming from the state on that. Agriculture fared well in the New York State budget, which is surprising with everything going on. We're pleased about that. Also, your legislators are out in the district. Joe Angelino, Assemblyman Joe Angelino, has been around meeting at town meetings. I know he was in Green the other night. So now is a good time to catch up with him if you want to spend a little time talking to him. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Brad.
Should we ask Joe to come to one of these meetings sometime?
Wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, he'd probably be willing to do that. He's
always
very strong
interested.
about agriculture. He's a Farm Bureau member.
Yeah, so it just might be good to hear from him sometime.
He's been typical as a member of our ag tours, so it wouldn't hurt to get him in.
But we, invite him and say, we meet this Friday every month, and if you'd like to stop in sometime, you're welcome, and we could share what we're doing with the plan. Rob, do you have anything to report?
I don't have anything specifically to report, but I would ask John a little clarification on his report that he provided from the SWCD. He mentioned about the NRCS equip now allowing for the CNMPs to be funded as revisions rather than just the initial plan. The question I have is that apply to all production groups? In other words, would it be in addition to dairy farmers, would it also apply to beef, sheep, goats, and other livestock producers?
He's thinking, Rob. Hang on.
You know, Rob, it's a good question, and I think Brian might be the better person to answer that, unless Ken recalls more on it, but
And where I'm going with this is that the Cornell Pro Dairy DAP program that offered a similar opportunity is limited strictly to dairy farmers. So if NRCS is expanding their opportunity to revise old CNMPs for all livestock producers, that would definitely be a benefit.
yeah. I mean, he had specifically stated beef. But so I don't know if he excluded anything other than beef, but yeah, he might be the better person to ask on that.
Thank you, John.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else to come before us?
I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Brad, 1 minute. I would
Okay.
encourage everybody to read over the part 3 when Colleen sends it, so we can make your notes on the side and go through it like we did this time. I think we get through pretty well this way, so. And Brad, Marge. Okay, Marge has something.
I just took this out of the, well, I don't know whether it was Farm Shine or where, but Trinity Meat Company in Hartwick on State Route 205 is advertising for appointments for processing of beef, pork, and lamb. And that's not Chenango County, but it's not as far away as having to go, you know, other places, maybe.
Mount Vision is between Oneonta and Cooperstown.
Right.
Okay, Brad moved to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Passed. Thank you. Have a good week.